Welcome to the official tutorial for the split flap display and departure board. In this video I want to give a brief overview of the contents that come with the split flap display asset and show how you can start using it in your own projects. I'm going to start with a quick overview of the contents for each folder. If you just want to learn how to use the project, you can skip to the timestamp in the description, where I will show you how to get started with that. The demo folder contains all the examples that come with the project. If you want to see everything at once, you can open the overview map. The 5 demos that come with the project are an airport departure board, which uses 4 displays at once, a European-style train departure board, a clock, a scoreboard, and a free text demo showing off how you can directly control the display through code. If you hit play, you can see all the displays in action, with the departure boards automatically going through a set timetable and a simulation running in the background adding random delays and cancellations. The simulation can be adjusted for each type of transportation and even appropriately models the average experience of a German rail passenger. The audio folder contains all the different sound waves used by the display as well as a few other files. Most important are the 2 different sound cues, which allow you to replace the default sound with an alternate, softer version. The blueprints folder contains the most important assets of the project. There are 5 folders for the different demos seen in the overview map. The simulation should usually not need to be modified, since it can be configured once it's added to a blueprint. The next folder contains the actual display blueprint. Inside the display blueprint, there are quite a few different components, functions, and variables. Thankfully, most of these usually won't need to be touched, and there are just 3 functions that are used to drive the display. The materials should only be modified if you understand Unreal's material system quite well, as there are a lot of advanced concepts used inside the material templates. The instances offer a lot of customization options though, which should be enough for most situations. The meshes can theoretically all be replaced, but the letter mesh is quite complex, so modifying it would require a lot of work. Inside the textures folder you will find 2 fonts. Roboto is used for the descriptions, while the one on the right is the actual font used by the letters inside the displays. Both are distance fields rather than alpha textures. If you want to modify the textures or anything else in the project, you'll find some more details in the project documentation to help you with that. If you just want to directly use any of the included displays, it's relatively simple. You can just look inside one of the provided maps and copy the blueprints from there. You can also just drag the blueprints into your scene from the blueprints folder, but it's important to remember that the display itself is completely static and needs to be told what to do by another blueprint. For that purpose, the project comes with a few blueprints that automatically create a display for you and take care of all the relevant setup. The departure board blueprint can be used to create any kind of departure board with as many displays as you want. It also contains the transport simulation, which automatically updates the display for you. There are also the free text, scoreboard, and clock demos. They show off how you can use the display to show any arbitrary content and can be used as the basis for any custom displays. I want to show you how you can quickly create your own custom departure board based on the contents of a modern digital train station display as you would find them all over Europe. First, we create a new child blueprint for the display and put it into an empty folder. Now you can open the blueprint and start configuring the design. Set up the viewport so you can get a good look at the display. You might need to switch the rendering to unlit for this. The size config allows you to adjust the basic layout, including the number of rows and columns, as well as any spacers that you might want to have between the columns. The spacer position sets the column in which a spacer will appear, while the scale determines how wide a spacer is in comparison to a single letter. I've also removed the per row text because it's not needed for my design. Once you've finished the basic layout, you can move on to the description. Here you can create as many texts as you want. For each of them you can change the color and add as many translations as you need. Once you're happy with the way it looks, you can move on to the next step. Create a new struct which will determine how the content of the timetable will be laid out and should roughly match the different sections of your new custom display. You will need to turn this into a single string later when it's displayed. Now we are going to create a data table asset based on our new custom struct. To do this, right-click, go to Miscellaneous, Data Table and select your new custom struct in the drop-down. This data table will be the departure timetable for your custom display. You can fill it using the built-in editor or an external CSV editor. I'm going to be using the built-in one for this to quickly add a few examples. The project comes with two BP timetable data blueprints. We need to copy one of them. You should pick whichever one is the most similar to the departure board you're building. Open up the blueprint and change the type of data variable inside to your new custom struct. When you compile the blueprint, there should be a bunch of errors now because of the changed variable type. To fix this, you will need to adjust everything to use your new custom struct type. You will also need to create a new string formatting function for your type. This function will turn the data from your struct into the string that's displayed. It's important that the created string fits into your display. It will usually be necessary to fill up any spaces in the display that might be left between the columns using a padding function. If you have done everything correctly, the blueprint should compile now and your new departure board will be usable. You can test your custom departure board by dragging a new instance of BP split flap departure board into a level. You will need to adjust the timetable in display settings in the details panel to use your newly created assets. Now we can press play to test the departure board. As you can see, I've made a few errors when setting up the string conversion. To fix this, I'm going to add an uppercase conversion to each string, since the display cannot show lowercase letters. I also forgot to remove the highlighting from some of the columns in the display, so I need to remove those columns from the secondary color columns array. To get some nicer formatting, I've also changed how the platform number gets converted. And I've extended the detailed section of the display to be able to show longer texts. If you want the simulation to work correctly, you need to add enough entries for the timetable to at least fill all displays once. So I filled up the data table with 15 entries to show you a fully working display and transport simulation in action. You've made it to the end of the tutorial. I hope that this video helps you get the most out of the asset. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below or send an email to the address listed on the channel profile.